What is going on, guys? In today's video we're going to be talking about the DMR 14 in terms of its time to kill, stats, and recoil pattern in Warzone as well as Black Ops Cold War multiplayer. I'm also going to be providing you guys with loadouts for Warzone, so stay tuned to the end of the video if that's what you're interested in. Because this gun is a Black Ops Cold War weapon, the first thing I'm going to do is go over how good this gun is in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer. For those of you that are still playing that, and for those of you guys that are just kind of wondering if this is going to be worth the grind to get this gun to max level, how long is it going to take, and how good is it in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer. We have a lot to cover in this video. If you guys just want to skip the Black Ops Cold War multiplayer part, I don't blame you. Just go ahead and skip through maybe 5 or 6 minutes through this video and get straight to the Warzone part. But anyway, let's get right into it. So because this portion of the video does pertain to Black Ops Cold War multiplayer, everything that you're going to see in terms of time to kill is going to be referencing 150 health, which is the standard for Black Ops Cold War multiplayer. So getting started, the damage is 58, making this gun a 3-shot kill upper chest up to 50 meters, and then it drops off to 4 shots to kill somebody upper chest, stomach, and legs. If you don't know already, in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer, all of these damage values are the same for every gun, except for whenever you start shooting people in the head. I don't like this choice personally because I think it kind of takes some of the skill gap out of things, but that's just my opinion. It is what it is. Moving on, the fire rate is only 400 rounds per minute. This is a semi-automatic gun, so that does make sense. However, there is a barrel. The titanium barrel will increase your fire rate on this gun 22%, making this gun one of the best guns, even in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer as well. Has a bullet velocity of 700 meters per second, which is a lot higher than a lot of the other rifles in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer. The movement is a little bit slower than the other assault rifles in multiplayer, but that makes sense. This gun's a little bit bigger, it hits a little bit harder. Accuracy, honestly, this looks kind of bad, but because this gun shoots so slowly, you're not really going to feel its bad, recoil numbers per se, like the stats. The recoil pattern is actually pretty tight. Going over ammo, again, reload speed is a little bit slower than the rest of the assault rifles, and it only holds 20 rounds, so I would recommend using like a 30 round speed mag or something like that with this gun. Looking over at the recoil pattern over here, let me zoom out real quick so you guys can see it better. Like I said, it's very tight. It kind of has like an up to the right a little bit. Like these two are just they came out of nowhere whenever I was shooting the gun. But right here is kind of what you would expect. This gun is extremely accurate, mostly because it's a semi-automatic weapon. Moving on to time to kill, upper chest, stomach, and legs is going to be between around like a 0.77 to a little over 1 second. This time to kill does include the aim down sight speed as well as the bullet velocity. This is going to be however long it takes the last bullet to travel, however far your enemy is on this left hand column over here. Looking at the graph itself, that's why it has that downward slope, because of the bullet velocity added in, and it also curves downward instead of upward because my time to kill graphs are in reverse order, so it's easier to visualize. The gun's getting worse as it goes down the graph. As well as whenever you compare multiple guns, you simply just look at whatever gun is on top, and that is going to be the one that's going to have the lower time to kill, and that is going to be the better gun. Something else to note, it does have a 19% increase to time to kill at 50 meters, and this is also going to be a 19% increase to time to kill with each bullet missed. Because this is a semi-automatic weapon, it is very unforgiving with shots missed. So whenever its time to kill is a lot slower than another weapon, it's kind of not really worth using. And that's sort of the case here in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer. You'll see in the time to kill graph I'm going to show, comparing all the other rifles, is that the DMR is just a little bit better. Moving on, like I said, the firepower here, completely better than the other assault rifles except for the fire rate. Speed, it's worse than the other assault rifles except for sprint to fire time, which is the same. Accuracy, it says it's worse, but it is better just because it shoots slower. As far as, ammo and everything goes, that's also worse too. They kind of treated this gun almost like a sniper in a way in terms of like ammo capacity and stuff like that. So whenever looking at the recoil patterns for all the assault rifles here, you can see that the DMR is in this right sector right here, and it is obviously a lot better than these other automatic weapons, which is normal for a semi-automatic rifle. That makes sense. By the way, this FFAR has 2 because this is the top one is going to be its post-nerf, or post-buff, really, post-patch recoil pattern, whereas this is whenever they kind of nerfed it to all hell and it was terrible. Now it's a lot more viable of a gun. Moving on to the time to kill, the DMR is actually pretty average in its base weapon form. You're going to notice this if you are trying to try it out, level it up, to play for Warzone or whatever. Leveling up in Black Ops Cold War multiplayer for the first time is kind of difficult. 1, because its iron sights aren't very good, and 2, without that barrel attachment that increases the fire rate by 22%, it's actually worse than all the assault rifles. So you're going to have a tough time leveling up for about the first 15 or so levels until you get that attachment. And let's adjust that right now. So we're going to go here, we're going to multiply this by 1.22, bringing that up to 700, and then we're going to go back and look at what it did. It's slightly above all of the assault rifles, meaning its time to kill is a little bit less and a little bit faster, making it a slightly better gun than the other rifles. Honestly, this is fair. In my opinion, in Black Ops Cold War, this gun doesn't need to be nerfed. You'll see if you use it yourself once you have all those attachments that it's not like you're dominating. In my opinion, I would still prefer to use the FFAR1 or the AK-47 or the XM4. It's good. It is good. If you hit all of your shots, you're going to kill everybody a lot faster. But like I said, it's semi-automatic, so it's not very forgiving. And you'll see that. So in Black Ops Cold War speaking, I don't think this gun is going to get a nerf. Moving on to how this gun operates in Warzone is a completely different story. So moving on, this is going to be the section where I start talking about this gun in Warzone. So you can assume that all of the time to kill stats here are with full 3 plates, 250 health. So the damage is 60, slight buff. The effective damage range is 60, slight buff. The fire rate is 400, which is the same. Bullet velocity, slight buff, I think, is 600 meters per second. Aim down sight speed is about the same. This is about standard for all the other rifles in Warzone. Magazine size is the same, and this reload quickness is also about the same. One thing to note that I noticed whenever I was reloading this weapon is that the animation is a little bit off, so the player model will snag in the magazine and rack the round in, and then it kind of waits like a second for actually pull up in your HUD. I think this is an issue, another bug that they need to fix. Just watch out for that whenever you're in tight gunfights, that don't cancel the animation at all with this weapon, because you will accidentally not reload. But anyway, moving on, it is a 5-shot kill with full plates up to 60 meters. That is insane. A 5-shot kill, right? Like, this fire rate is low, but a 5-shot kill in Warzone, if you hit a headshot, this comes down to 3, really, because likely that guy is not going to be completely plated up, and you're going to be 3 hitting people. Because, like I said, this is barely 5, because it's 1.62 or whatever. So, like, if they have, like, if they get, you know, flicked, then it's going to be a 4-shot kill instead of a 5-shot kill. But anyway, moving on to the recoil pattern. So this is in Warzone. This is with no attachments on the DMR, and I'm not doing anything to try and curve the recoil at all. And I'm going to shoot again just so that you guys can kind of see the consistency. In my opinion, it got a slight buff to its recoil too, in terms of how it was in Black Ops Cold War versus how it is now. Yes, it is kind of a line instead of a cluster, but I think it's a lot easier to predict. So if you just slightly move your thumbstick or your mouse down, it's going to be a laser beam. And like I said, it's very easy to predict. There's no kind of randomness there, making it very accurate. And then right here in the upper right corner, you can see this is the recoil pattern that was actually produced. It has a slight snake-like recoil pattern, but not really at all. Especially whenever you slap on a grip that lowers that horizontal. It's pretty much going to go straight up. And like I said, you just lower your right thumb a little bit, and you'll pretty much get a cluster right here. You'll see that at the end of the video. I'm going to have a loadout, and I'm going to test the gun's recoil pattern with those attachments. And I'm even going to try and control it, so you're going to see it how easy it is to pull down and get a very smooth recoil pattern. So moving on to time to kill. It's going to be between 1 second and 1.3 seconds. I know that's kind of a lot. And it is kind of a lot. This is actually worse than a lot of the other assault rifles. But like I said, that fire rate barrel, the barrel that increases your fire rate, the titanium one, is going to buff this gun a lot. And you will see that whenever I go to this tab and show you guys the time to kill graphs for all of the other rifles compared to this one. So looking at, like I said, how this gun compares from its version of itself in Black Ops Cold War, it's got a buff to damage, buff to effective damage range, fire rate's the same. Oh, it is a slight nerf in bullet velocity, but 700 is insane, so this does make sense. Aim down sight speed is slightly faster in Warzone from what I've tested, and these are about the same. I wouldn't be surprised if reload quickness was actually also 2.5, especially with that little delay like I mentioned earlier. And then, like I said, with the recoil pattern, in my opinion, even though this is kind of a cluster, it's kind of random, and I think this is much easier to predict and control. Looking at the time to kill, you can see that the Warzone version of this gun slightly buffed, barely buffed. This is basically the effective damage range and that slight 2-point damage buff taking effect. And like I said, slight buff, but they're pretty much the same gun. The only reason why this gun is so powerful is because you increase the amount of health you have, and the guns that hit harder are going to be a lot more viable because they're going to have a much higher damage per second. Looking at this gun compared to the other assault rifles in, let me move my camera real quick, in Warzone. So, like I said, the damage and effective damage range on this gun dominated everything else by far, but everything else is slightly worse. Except the aim down sight speed, it's the same. But, like I said, you can dramatically increase this fire rate by about 22% is what it says it's supposed to do in Black Ops Cold War. I am going to make a video about all of the barrels associated with the DMR and kind of finding out exactly what they do and which one is best. That video will likely come out tomorrow. Looking at the recoil patterns for all of the assault rifles and the DMR. Like I said, it's very good. Let me shrink my camera again. Move that out of the way. So, the DMR. Vertically, a lot better than almost all of these except for the kilo, which is kind of just straight left. As you can see, like, there's this little line that breaks between the wall, and I test my guns at the same spot 15 meters away on the same wall so that you can kind of see the consistency here. The DMR, very easy to control. Honestly, it's probably the easiest gun to control, and it hits the hardest and is the most accurate. It's kind of a recipe for the reason why this gun is so good. So let's go ahead and look at the time to kill graph. So as you can see, I don't know if you guys can read these, this legend right here, because let me try and zoom in one more time. All right, that'll work. So the DMR is going to be this teal blue line, right? I know it's right in the middle. You would expect it to be above all of these, having the lowest time to kill, but that is not the case here. But the reason why this gun is so good is because once you add in that extra titanium barrel that's going to increase its fire rate, it's likely going to be above all of these, making it the best weapon in the game by far. The only bad thing about this gun is it's semi-automatic, but that gun shoots very quickly, especially if you're good at shooting semi-automatic weapons. And like I said, it hits harder. That's why, like, in my little rankings over here, I think it's the best gun in the game. Everybody knows it's the best gun in the game, and this is exactly why. If you saw my previous, portion of this video whenever I talked about this weapon in Black Ops Cold War, it was kind of a similar situation, except the DMR was worse than all the assault rifles, and then you put on that titanium barrel, and then this line moved up. So let's go ahead and test that. assuming that this barrel does what it's supposed to do, and it is just a 22% increase, then we should see this outcome. Like I said, I am going to make a video about that tomorrow, explaining all the barrels on the DMR and kind of identifying which one's best. So if you guys want to see that, go ahead and subscribe with notifications on to make sure that you do see that video. But with that increase in fire rate by 22%, the DMR now moves up here. Why is this a big deal? The only guns that kill faster than this gun are the AK-47, which has a terrible recoil, and the XM4. The Kilo is this pinked out right down here. The M4 is right up here. Everything else, you know, that everybody says, like, you know, it's the M4, the Kilo, like those are the metas. They're way down here compared to this line up here. That's a huge gap, and like I said, this gun's not inaccurate. I know they nerfed the recoil, but it's not inaccurate. Like I said, this gun is a huge problem. Honestly, in my opinion, I think the best way to fix this gun is just lower this this whole line here. Maybe mess with the base weapon, but I think all they have to do is nerf the titanium barrel and its fire rate. Maybe instead of a 22%, you only give it like a 12 or a 15, and it should be, in my opinion, this gun balanced should be barely above or maybe in between the M4 and the Kilo. Maybe a little bit above. Like I said, it's a semi-automatic gun, so if you miss shots, you're going to get punished. But if it's barely above, like it is in Black Ops Cold War, I would prefer to use an automatic weapon because they're more forgiving. Whereas in this case, it doesn't matter if it's not forgiving. It's better. It's clearly better. I could miss a shot and still have a higher time to kill than all these other weapons. So that is going to not conclude the video because I promised you guys loadouts. 1 second. So as you can see, these are all the classes that I use in Warzone, and this is my DMR class. These are, you know, akimbo M19s. I just kind of use them because you can run around quickly. There's the perks I use. But anyway, so for the attachments on the DMR 14, I would recommend using the agency suppressor because it's most like the monolithic, giving you sound suppression and damage range. As of right now, before I do the testing and prove to you guys that this is the best barrel, this is the one that feels the best to me, but I could be wrong. I'm going to do all the testing, like I said, tomorrow, and then come out with a new loadout tomorrow with the best barrel. But as for now, 16.3-inch titanium barrel, because I don't think this is increasing your damage, and even if it does, it doesn't increase your fire rate as much as this one. And then I also, this gun needs a fire rate buff, or at least a damage buff, and I don't think the task force barrel actually does anything at all, which is strange. Got to be nerfed, or fixed, or bugged, or whatever. But moving on, I would recommend using the field agent grip. I'm also going to make a video about which of these is the best ones, because I've heard that the bruiser grip has a secret, recoil control thing into it, which it doesn't say it does, but apparently, that's what it happens. So I'm going to test all these two and come up with a video for that as well. I would recommend using a 30-round speed bag. I think of some people use the 40-round speed bag, but in my opinion, it's 4 or 5 shots to kill. You do not need 40 rounds. Most of the time, I'm downing people within like maybe 6 or 7 shots with a few misses, and that's a full team. 28 rounds is a full mag. You shouldn't need 40, and this way your aim down sight speed isn't punished as much as it would be, so that's why I'd recommend using that. As far as optics go, I know a lot of people use the Axial Arms 3X. I don't like that sight. I actually use the Celix Halo Scout. For my DMR, I think it has a very good balance between close range and long range, making it to where you can use this gun in every single situation. And as far as reticles go, I would recommend using this one. It's a lot smaller than that, so it does look better, and I like how it cuts out the top, so you kind of have a clear sight picture. Or when using the carrot, I kind of switch back between both of these, to be honest. So moving on, I'm going to show you guys kind of like how this gun behaves in terms of recoil. So as you can see, we're 15 meters away in the exact same spot that we were shooting this gun previously whenever it had no attachments. Here we have the same attachments that I mentioned before, and in this first clip, I'm not doing anything to control the recoil. So you're going to see that the recoil pattern is slightly worse than the base gun, but that is only because of its fast fire rate. That's kind of a byproduct of having a faster fire rate. You're just naturally going to have a higher recoil as well because of that. In the second clip right here, I'm going to reload, and I'm controlling my recoil right here the best as I can, but just by simply pulling down on the thumbstick a little slightly down and to the left. And as you can see, this gun doesn't move. And I'm shooting as fast. And with that titanium barrel, it does shoot a lot faster than you saw before with the base gun, making it shred people. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something today. If you did, go ahead and give this video a like. I would greatly appreciate that. As well as... keep moving stuff around. As well as... subscribe to my channel. If you guys enjoy content like this, you want to see more content like this, I plan on uploading every single day, probably for the next few months until I find a job. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, I hope you guys have a great day.